This week's episode was brought to you by Amber Rose, Sarah Pierce, and Chip Medine. Thank you, Amber Rose, Sarah Pierce, and Chip Medine. It's with the generous support of listeners just like you that keeps our warp rift technicians slaving away day and night to fine-tune our tripolar chronodisplacement field generators to a frequency compatible with the non-local interstellar phase grid network so we can keep siphoning energy off the etheric webbing created by the 50-mile-wide plasma spiders that are hiding on the dark side of both Martian moons. If you'd like to help us colonize the natural resources of megalithic space spiders or just hear the second half of this episode, then please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of a mere $5 will not only get you the extended edition of this episode, but every single one of our extended episodes conveniently browsable from right within your Spotify app, once you log in and link your accounts, of course. But that's not all. They'll send you a 5x5 high-quality Big Bunny Baphomet vinyl sticker of our podcast cover art, and if you order within the next 30 years, you'll be given the keys to our Discord server where we teach our household pets how to read tarot cards. If you enjoy the free show just fine and would rather save your $5 for a reduced sodium Salisbury steak TV dinner, then please consider ruining your future social credit score by giving our humble podcast a like, subscribe, or share on your social media platform of choice. Better still, tell a friend or foe about the show and observe their behavior in the weeks following. It's science. On this week's episode, we investigate the strange happenings at the infamous paranormal hotspot, Skinwalker Ranch. In the free section of the show, we discuss the rich history of the Uinta Basin, the role that the legendary Buffalo Soldiers played in settling the region, portal surfing UFOs, the Sherman family's cattle mutilating visitors, and the finer points of being a skinwalker. In the extended version of the show, we go a bit further down the rabbit hole to discuss what the official investigations over the years have turned up. Ancient, native legends of giants, sea serpents, and the hideous, transdimensional bipedal monsters which lurk in the darkness, and much, much more. Thank you, everybody, and enjoy the show. Why did the rancher bring a ladder to the bar?
Why?
Because he heard the drinks were on the house. You get it? Because then he used the ladder to get on the house. Anyway.
Wah, wah, wah.
Why did the gambler buy a cattle ranch?
Why? Why?
Because he wanted to raise the stakes.
Oh, good.
Why did the cow go in the spaceship?
Why?
It wanted to see the moon. What's scarier than a skinwalker?
What?
A foreskinwalker.
Oh my god. That's a good one. Yeah.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Whole Rabbit, where we don't just rustle your jimmies about the sensuous pleasures of self-love while wrapping you in a soft blanket of hard facts. Nay, suddenly the Jeep stops, we dig an elbow into your shoulder, bursting your disgusting sex dream bubble, and hand you a Geiger counter, some night vision goggles, and a giant purple laser, because this week, we're investigating the unprecedented amount of paranormal activity in the dusty sands of Utah's one and only Skinwalker Ranch. I'm your host, Luke Madrid, also known as the Hack Rabbit. I'm joined this week by the orange-coated corgi queen, Mari Sama.
Juicy.
The shape-shifting shadow from Sheol, Malachlor 5.
I'm quite dry.
And the unicorn with marshmallow-scented armpits, Hecka Astra.
Hello. Is that a good thing?
Yes.
Yeah. Yay.
This week, we're joined once again by our beloved collaborator, the magnificent Mr. Tim Hacker, creator of the Cryptic Chronicles podcast, crypticchronicles.com, who prepared the meat and potatoes of today's episode, giving our regular team the chance to stir the gravy. Why does that sound wrong somehow? Anyway, thank you for joining us again this week, Tim.
Absolutely. And you know what? Just don't ever trust giant 6-foot-tall wolves. It's a bad idea.
What if they offer you butterscotch?
Then you should trust them. I changed my mind.
What if they open portals?
That would be situational depending on the context.
Only if they have butterscotch.
Yeah.
So this is one of my all-time favorite topics to discuss in terms of the paranormal for a couple of reasons. Firstly, if you're a believer, there's probably been some time in your life, probably early in your journey of discovery, where you desperately wanted to show something to your friend that would, make them more open-minded toward something paranormal like UFOs, ghosts, ritual magic, etc. But you quickly realized the type of mind-boggling experience required to turn a skeptic into even a temporary believer is not easily conjured on demand. Most people who stay interested in such things eventually learn that people will come to their own conclusions, and more than the vaguest encouragement is kind of rude and a waste of energy. The thing here, though, at Skinwalker Ranch, all that stuff goes out the window. Well, it's not open to the public. Theoretically speaking, if you want a skeptic, even the most scientifically minded person out there, to have an experience of what we would call high strangeness, Skinwalker Ranch can be relied upon to provide it. As we will see today, this has become more or less the legacy of the ranch. The second reason I love Skinwalker Ranch is because even though it's one of the most reliably paranormal places on the planet, the activity experienced there is somewhat diverse and expectation shattering. While this tends to offend the sensibilities of those unfamiliar with such topics, the fact the ranch has a variety of activity that you would expect from, say, an entire season of X-Files is a tantalizing puzzle piece to consider. It breaks people's preconceived notions about what UFOs, portals, Native American curses, cryptids, and ghosts are supposed to be like. Specifically, entirely separate phenomena that have nothing to do with each other. Turns out they do.
Does it also have a poop monster like X-Files?
Yeah.
No!
So yeah, if you're looking for a place where truth is stranger than fiction, Skinwalker Ranch needs to be on your radar.
But what is the Skinwalker Ranch?
The Skinwalker Ranch?
Skinwalker Ranch is one of the most ineffable and controversial places on the planet. Its namesake owing itself to Native American skinwalker legend. The 500-acre ranch is located in the middle of nowhere, southeast of Ballard, Utah, and is home to many documented cases concerning high strangeness. There are so many documented cases, in fact, that Skinwalker Ranch has come to be seen as a place where, even for skeptics, spending enough time there means you will eventually and reliably witness something where the normal laws of physics and common sense are torn limb from limb.
Yeah, I'm a proud skeptic. I like talking about logic and using those terms to get to the quote-unquote bottom of things, but Skinwalker Ranch is on my list of places that I don't know how to explain at all. And there's a lot of, dead things that end up on that land. We're going to talk about it, but it's pretty brutal at times. And then sometimes it's just a simple person going missing. And that just throws a lot of what I have to say out, because when it's that real, it's like, how do you argue against people's experience? And especially what the natives felt about that region.
Sounds like a place deep with copy pasta horror mystery.
All in the same place, stacked on top of itself. The Uinta Valley first saw white people when the Spanish led by Escalante and Dominguez first sent their scouts there in the 1770s. Hunters, traders, and trappers followed shortly thereafter. When Brigham Young's scouts first saw the Uinta Basin in 1860, they reported back that it was little more than a wasteland. In reality, native tribes had called it home for more than 12,000 years. The area was originally settled by the Ute tribe, which is actually the source of the state of Utah's name. Because of incessant fighting between the Mormon settlers and the native Ute tribes in the Provo Valley, 150 miles to the west, President Abraham Lincoln declared the Uinta Basin as an Indian reservation in 1861. Then he had the natives from the Provo Valley moved over there. While the valley had been lush and fertile, the Uinta Basin was rugged and harsh. Even still, Lincoln had promised that this land, a downgrade as it was, would be theirs forever. This, of course, was a lie, as settlers eventually began to covet the basin as well as the tribal lands, which were whittled down year by year into smaller and smaller pieces. The Ute hold on the land became entirely untenable in 1885 when miners prospecting on tribal lands discovered rich deposits of a black hydrocarbon that would prove essential in the manufacturing of paints, varnish, lacquer, and insulating material. This rare material would be named gilsonite, and when it was discovered, it resulted in an aggressive and illegal encroachment by settlers in the basin who began staking claims to mine the mineral all over tribal lands. For a while, a native named T.M. Burns succeeded in halting mining operations, but the mining companies petitioned Congress that areas where gilsonite were prevalent should be redesignated as public domain. They needed the gilsonite after all. There's money to be made. Congress, of course, approved the bill, and the Utes who lived on the land were offered $20 per acre. The tribal members who did not wish to sell were plied with whiskey or otherwise tricked, and by 1888, the mining interests controlled all of the land they desired in the basin. In 1881, another reservation was created adjacent to accommodate displaced Utes who had been forced from Colorado as well. Because there were so many potentially hostile natives now grouped into a singular geographical region, the U.S. military authorized the establishment of a new military outpost responsible for guarding frontier settlers. Then in August 1886, enter Major Frederick Benteen, who led a contingent of the 9th U.S. Cavalry to northeastern Utah, where the Duchesne and Uinta rivers met. 10 years earlier, Frederick had served in John Custer's ill-fated 7th Cavalry, but survived the massacre of Little Bighorn, and now had been assigned to establish this new military outpost on this spot where the two rivers met and would become known as Fort Duchesne. This was no small task, as the Utes were known for being proud, unpredictable, and fierce warriors. But Benteen had an ace up his sleeve. When Major Frederick Benteen rolled in, he was quickly reinforced with 75 battle-tested cavalrymen, all of whom were black and were known by the natives as the now legendary Buffalo Soldiers. The white cavalrymen who arrived a day prior cheered their arrival. The Buffalo Soldiers, after all, had a fierce reputation. At least 18 Congressional Medals of Honor would be awarded to the Buffalo Soldiers, who had gotten their names from the natives, who felt there was some resemblance to the sacred animal they revered because, they had dark skin and curly hair, long story short. In fact, black cavalrymen accounted for 20% of the military's horse-mounted forces, and they fought in countless battles. While their legacy is well documented, what is not widely known is that a great number of these Buffalo Soldiers stationed at Fort Duchesne, maybe even most of them, were Freemasons.
Ah, the plot thickens.
So they're pretty much the most American people ever. Now, most people don't know this, but Freemasonry had come into vogue for free black Americans at this time because of an emancipated slave named Prince Hall, who emigrated from England to America and established African Lodge No. 1 in Boston on July 3rd, 1876. They stayed up all night and partied on the 4th, Because it's 100 years after 1776. It's kind of a big anniversary. You know what I mean? It's a big deal.
I didn't even think about that until you basically laid it out for me.
Quickly, Prince Hall Lodge is multiplied with one setting up shop in Texas, where it then crossed paths with the 9th Cavalry Division, where a handful of its members eventually established a lodge all the way out in Utah just a few decades later. The Utes know this history well, and they recount that a small patch of land was designated as a burial site for these Buffalo Soldiers, but it was eventually covered up by an apartment complex for Ute tribal members who now believe that could have something to do with the unusual amount of paranormal activity in the area.
Oh man, it's like a reverse Native American burial ground situation.
Yeah.
That's what the author of The Hunt for Skinwalker Ranch says, that it's a reversal of these Hollywood stereotypes, because it's like natives building housing on Black Masonic burial grounds, and then that causes the haunting. Usually you'd suspect the opposite.
We gonna haunt ya.
Well, the genocide perpetrated on the natives by colonizers should be reason enough for the Uinta Valley to carry its own share of negative energy. The most common explanation, though, for the paranormal activity owes itself to a dispute between the Utes and the neighboring Dene, or as we called them growing up, Navajo. They called themselves Dene, so now we call them Dene, because of course that makes sense.
That's good to know.
So while conflict was known to happen between native tribes, things took on a whole new level when the colonizers arrived. As the legend is told, while the Dene attempted to keep their traditions, the Utes were quick to adopt the ways of the settlers, taking to horseback, attacking Dene villages, and selling their people in the slave trade. Naturally, the Dene elders were furious, and they're the ones who are said to have placed a powerful curse on Ute land, which then encompasses the exact region where Skinwalker Ranch is today. It is for this reason that Utes will often not set foot on ranch property, as the ranch itself is thought to be in the path of the Skinwalker.
Yeah, but what the is a mother in Skinwalker?
Before telling you, it seems prudent to mention that the Navajo are cautious when speaking about skinwalkers, even amongst themselves, and outright unwilling with outsiders.
This isn't because of xenophobia or anything. It's out of a sense of self-preservation. After all, a skinwalker could be listening at any time, or could later read through their thoughts and know that they talked about a skinwalker.
It's seen as like painting a target on your back, and besides, there's no way to know that the outsider you're talking to is really an outsider at all. It could merely be a skinwalker in disguise hunting for their next victim.
You know me.
Or just being a spy. And likewise, Native Americans usually actually refuse to speak about supernatural monsters like the Skinwalkers or anyone in their legends to outsiders to basically avoid the wrath of them, which is a good idea. Angering a Skinwalker could lead to a horrific demise. Any sane person should seek to avoid at any cost.
That being said, skinwalkers tend to torment their own people and are known only rarely to attack outsiders. As such, our knowledge and understanding of skinwalkers is not authoritative.
Yeah, because there's probably a lot that we don't know about. Obviously, they don't really like to talk about it, but in summary, skinwalkers are entities from Native American lore who were once spiritual authorities of a tribe, but decided to use medicine for evil. And medicine in the way that Native Americans look at it, we're not talking about medicine as in, you're going to put on an ointment or something. It's not the way that the West looks at it. In truth, to them, medicine is magic. Skinwalkers are shapeshifters who were once normal human beings. They can transform into any animal they want, though oftentimes the animal is twisted and demonically grotesque. The Navajo tribe in particular has immense lore surrounding skinwalkers. It is said that a skinwalker was once a medicine man or woman, priest/healer/shaman type of character, and they went dark side, becoming a practitioner of witchcraft.
In Native American tribes, the distinction between the light side of shamanism and the dark side of witchcraft is devotion to the tribe versus devotion to the self. The powers of spirit are intended to create harmony between nature and the community, done in the name of healing and the good of all life. To the best of our knowledge, we are admittedly outsiders, the skinwalker is in many ways like the good medicine man who uses the same category of powers, but for selfishness and evil. It is said that those who've been initiated into becoming a skinwalker gain their supernatural abilities through acts of unspeakable evil that show their devotion to leaving their humanity behind.
Yeah, they're basically just medicine men that went dark side. And these initiatory acts to become one can differ, but they're always highly macabre, like murdering a close family member, incest, or even necrophilia. For this reason, witchcraft in many native cultures, including the Navajo, have strong similarities to European culture in that witches are not afforded the same personhood as normal human beings and are considered unfit to suffer life and may be killed on sight according to tribal custom. Naturally, the skinwalker will stop at nothing to avoid being identified, especially to the effect of killing any unlucky witnesses.
It's like in Red Dead Redemption. It's like, oh no, that person saw me, now I have to kill them. Oh no, this other person saw me, now I have to kill them. Before you know it, you've just killed like 15 people. That's basically what the skinwalker has to do if he gets seen.
Exactly, but it's even worse than that because it's not only the people who saw, or whatever, it's people who talked. He's got to kill everybody you told, so it gets even worse. After the skinwalker's ritual of transformation is complete, the sorcerer is then gifted with supernatural power and an unquenchable urge to do harm. There are even ranks within the Skinwalker Society, the highest being I have no idea how to pronounce this, and I'm going to butcher it, but I'm going to go for it, Klizati, which translates to...
I think it's Klizyati.
Klizyati, there we go, which translates to...
pure evil.
Typically, a Skinwalker will transform into a wolf, coyote, eagle, fox, or crow. All these, they have many options when they shapeshift.
The skinwalker is said to take on the strengths of the animal it transforms into. The bear has raw strength, while the wolf has stealth. The raven has cunning, etc.
Exactly. And really no limits exist on what type of animal a skinwalker can transform into. It could be like just whatever's useful. So, if it needs to sneak into somewhere, maybe it'll turn into a mouse. If it needs to spy on somebody from above, maybe it'll turn into an eagle. It's basically just practical what it turns into, though skinwalkers are known to have their favorite forms, many of them leaning towards the wolf. There are Navajo legends of skinwalkers stealing people's faces as well, or if someone makes eye contact with one, it can absorb itself into a person's body, which is kind of creepy. Sometimes they freeze their victims with their demonic eyes, consuming them with paralyzing fear.
When they're described in this way, it reminds me of the Arabian jinn, who also sport eyes that seem to be made of boiling red coals.
Oh, without a doubt, I bet you $1 million. Anybody from the Near East or Arabia who read Skinwalker lore, they would be like, oh, that's just jinn, dude. It's no big deal. Like a vampire, the Skinwalker absorbs the person's life force, giving the monster energy and power. When they're in their human form, wishing to go unnoticed, they are very hairy people who often wear the skins of animals as clothes, but to the untrained eye, they can usually pass themselves off as just regular everyday people.
A skinwalker could be watching you and you would never know.
Yeah, totally. Or the skinwalker could be a friend or a family member, and you wouldn't even know until it was too late because it's wearing their face. And this brings us to Skinwalker Ranch. In modern times, it's closed off to the public. There's no trespassing signs, road closed signs everywhere. Basically, if you look what it's like over at Area 51, it's kind of the same kind of deal. And they even got like guards patrolling the area. Make sure that nobody gets too close or too curious. This high security was not always present at the ranch, though. And at the time that our narrative begins, it was wholly non-existent.
So they've like installed military style security now, because in the old days it used to just be a barbed wire fence.
Yeah, now it's pretty hardcore. The ranch's rise to infamy began in 1994 when the Sherman family purchased the property and set up shop. The family sought solitude and a simple life outside the hustle and bustle rat race that consumed most people's lives in the city.
The New Mexico community they were hoping to leave behind was gossip hungry and draining for the Shermans to deal with. They just wanted their privacy.
The Sherman family were in for disappointment because they'd only last on the farm for around 2 years before fleeing the property out of terror.
And keep in mind, this is like their dream come true. The property is idyllic, there are Russian olive trees scattered everywhere amidst green pastures, perfect for their prize-winning cattle to graze in. And it featured an irrigation ditch running along the north side of the property. And then beyond that, there was a high ridge of reddish desert rock, which mysteriously glows at night. But in no time at all, their dreams of peace would fade into an oblivion.
Very early on, the family began to experience some pretty weird stuff. The encounters with the quote-unquote other would grow and grow, though, to the point that over the time of their stay there, the Sherman family would experience perhaps hundreds of paranormal experiences. When they purchased the property, there was a bizarre clause in the contract. It said that in order to purchase the property, they were not allowed to dig on the ranch, or if they wanted to dig on the ranch, they had to contact the previous owners, the Meyer family, for permission. And this is kind of weird. It made no sense, right?
That makes no sense.
However, the Sherman family, being cattle ranchers, didn't really have any concern about this oddity.
Well, you're gonna love this old place. You can put your cows over there on the pasture, and that little shack, that's where you sleep. By the way, don't do any digging. And god damn it, if you do any digging, call us on the horn first so we can tell you not to.
One thing that they left out of the books that makes sense concerning this bizarre clause that could kind of elucidate why they would have it in there other than paranormal reasons is people in the area, they really are serious about
Dinosaur bones, sinkholes.
mineral rights. If you somehow discover like a vast host of minerals, they don't want to lose that. Like people out there take their mineral rights very seriously. So that could be a reason why this was in the clause. But let's just ignore that because it's werewolves and vampires.
You know what? I'm ready.
When the Sherman family finally arrived at their new home, they were shocked. The house was heavily fortified, as if in preparation for some attack or something. Many doors and windows had been bolted shut with metal bars, and heavy locks were all over the place in excess. The Sherman family thought this was really, really weird, but just kind of thought maybe the Meyer family could have been kind of crazy. They were an old couple, and maybe senile and overly paranoid. The family moved in anyway, and tried to settle into their new home out in the middle of nowhere. Their desire for a comfortable, simple life would be sidelined, because it wouldn't take very long for weird stuff to start happening.
Imagine you buy a home and you walk into the kitchen and the drawers where you have the silverware and the cabinets where you keep your plates all have those slide locks on them, like in the old bathroom stalls, you know? Like, why would you need to lock your dishes up from the outside? Why would you need to do that?
Yeah, and all the windows have like prison bars and every door has chains and stuff. It's like, what the hell, dude?
They used to have 2 guard dogs on the property and they had these long poles that the Myers had put in. Like, it was essentially a compound and they couldn't figure out why it was like that. It's the most ominous thing you could imagine when buying a property.
Yeah, seriously super ominous.
So the fact the Shermans were the ones to be afflicted by such strange phenomena is remarkable because the publicity it brought them was very much unwanted. They were not publicity hounds. They just wanted to move their cattle there to avoid exactly that, in my opinion. This adds credibility to their story. Shermans were not required of UFOs or skinwalkers to make a name for themselves, as their cattle and animal husbandry skills were considered top tier. Terry produced expensive black Angus beef cows using a method of artificial insemination he had learned from his father, and he was known for keeping a healthy herd. Where normally a cattle farmer may be expected to lose 5% of their animals to predators and otherwise poor husbandry, Tom took it personally if he lost more than 1%. In this way, the Shermans had already made a name for themselves, and they very much wanted to keep it. Then, Terry himself is not only razor smart, but hardworking and possessed of a keen sense of intuition which he relies upon heavily. Besides Gwen being Terry's wife, she's also his business partner and intellectual equal, who besides keeping a happy home, helps with various duties around the ranch. Their 2 children are also said to be smart and hardworking. In short, they're very much not the people who crave the spotlight and don't require it. Wait until you hear about what happened to their poor delicious cows.
All right, the first encounter. Early on in their stay at the ranch, Terry and Gwen Sherman, with their 2 kids and Terry's father, were walking about the property. It was a beautiful day. Then, out in the distance, Terry saw what looked like a wolf around 400 yards away, walking towards the ranch very slowly. Terry pointed it out to everyone. They all watched as the wolf came closer, and quickly it became apparent that this thing was huge, bigger than any wolf they've ever seen, a dire wolf even. When the creature was about 50 yards away, it halted and seemed to be staring at the family. The wolf then once again started walking towards the family with such audacity, they wondered if it could have been tamed, that maybe it belonged to a neighbor or something. It didn't seem to be fazed by humans whatsoever. The horror within the family quickly erupted as the distance closed between them and the wolf. It was unlike anything they'd ever seen. It was so large. It went up to the chests of the 6-foot-tall men and was abnormally muscular, with otherworldly blue eyes that insinuated a keen intelligence. Despite this, the wolf seemed totally tame and came right up to them nonchalantly, like it was just as normal as breathing. Instead of running away, Terry reached out and pet the beast. He probably thought how cool it would be to have a tame super wolf mutant as a pet, but this curiosity didn't last long. While most of the calves in the nearby pen had taken to huddling far away, one curious calf seemed just as enchanted as the Shermans, poking its head out between the bars of the pen to get a closer look. The wolf spotted this particular calf and dashed to attack it. In an instant, the huge beast had the head of a small calf sandwiched in its enormous jaws. Terry and his father tried to save their livestock and hammered into the giant wolf with repeated attacks, but their blows didn't even seem to disturb the wolf even slightly. Terry yelled to his son to go grab his Colt pistol, and his son did so. He took the .357 revolver, pointed it at the wolf, and shot at point-blank range. The wolf didn't even react, unconcerned by the bullet as much as it was unconcerned by the physical blows from the men, so Terry unloaded into it.
Bang, bang! Take that, you stupid wolf! Get away from my cows! Bang, bang, bang.
Finally, the beast stopped eviscerating the calf and trotted away. It didn't even look like it had a scratch on it, but then it stopped and turned to look back at the family. It just stood there, staring. So Terry had his son go run and get his .30-06 hunting rifle. He almost felt bad as he took aim and squeezed the trigger. As expected, Terry's aim was true, and the bullet landed in the flesh of the wolf with a wet thwack, barely swayed by the force. The wolf didn't even flinch. He just stared back, beaming a sense of knowing from his cerulean blue eyes. Terry knew something was very, very wrong, and quickly readied another shot and fired. This time he saw a chunk of flesh and fur tear off the shoulder region of the large beast, which, once again, gave no indication of distress, and only then decided to gingerly trot off into the woods beyond the ranch. Terry armed his son, and the two followed the wolf because you don't want that thing just wandering around when you got calf around, right? They followed the wolf's footprints into the woods. Some were as much as 2 inches deep, but suddenly the footprints just disappeared. The dirt was soft and continued to be soft well into the woods, so it made no sense that they just vanish. Unable to hunt the wolf further, they retreated back to their ranch, very confused. Terry's son was visibly shaken, and he dreaded the burden of having to explain to his family something they all very clearly had seen was unexplainable.
It was a mind-blowing experience for the whole family. They all saw that this wolf's disposition was very strange. The wolf itself was enormous, and when they went to track it, it's not like Terry had trouble finding the tracks. The dirt was wet and moved into a clearing where there was water, and the tracks went right close to the water, and then they just they disappear completely. And this is something that he's gonna see again and again, usually when he's tracking his cattle.
Early life on Spooky Ranch.
Weird canines and wolf sightings would continue for the family. Gwen even encountered one that came up to her car one day when she was returning to the ranch. It had to duck its head down to look into the window, she said. After some time, these sightings would dwindle, but this doesn't mean the weird stuff stopped. The weird stuff just changed into new weird stuff.
Capitalistic weird stuff. I mean, what is a ranch but a place to keep your stuff? Well, you go out and get more stuff.
Although it mostly bothered Gwen, the entire family noticed stuff would go missing. And not just like small stuff like losing keys or, the remote controller, but stuff like giant ranch equipment. Terry would be using this heavy, large post digging equipment, then go away for 5 minutes. And when he came back, it was completely gone. At first, they thought it was the kids playing a joke, but when a couple of these things were eventually found, they were found in a way that didn't make sense. Like the heavy post digger, for example, was found 20 feet up in the air in a tree. I mean, who the hell would do that? Who could do that without like special equipment, right? And like lots of people. Well, that's exactly what the family was thinking.
Yeah, apparently Terry comes home one day, tears into the house. He's like, where's my post digger? Where'd you kids put it? I'm trying to, it's getting dark. I want to finish the fence. And they're like, we don't know what you're talking about. We're doing our homework right now, Dad. He's like, what? No, the post digger doesn't just move by itself. Time goes by, finds it in a tree. Honestly, how do you explain that? That's like, why would you make something up like that too?
Super heavy too, man.
Those are some big stuffed gnomes.
It could be ants or tree folk getting tired of the machinery.
Or it could have sprouted legs and arms and climbed up the tree by itself.
I like to call it stuff gnomes, but I think it's technically called disappearing object phenomena.
Yeah, it happens really seriously there. Like small stuff too, but weird big stuff as well, which is more bizarre.
Like they would put something down on the kitchen table, go wash some dishes, and then that object, they would find it weeks later in a totally obscure place. And when you think about it, it makes sense why they would have locks on everything, because they want stuff to stop moving between rooms,
Yeah, it's like almost like poltergeist activity in a way.
And apparently this wasn't like a once and every now and then kind of thing. It happened so much that it started to drive Gwen nuts.
Yeah, you just, find a banana up your husband's ass, like, oh, that's where my bananas went. Skinwalker Ranch.
Butt banana. Here's your banana.
However, the missing equipment and whatnot didn't have anything on what was to come. The family began noticing strange lights in the night sky, and this would be actually one of the main phenomena that the family encountered throughout their 2 years of living there. The light phenomena is probably the most common. While unsettling, the family were not prepared for what happened next. At first, Terry thought it might be intruders or even hunters setting up camp on his property. While he tolerated it for some time, eventually he decided it was best to make an effort to shoo people away for fear of messing with his fencing or, stupid kids leaving beer bottles. One night, Terry and his son and his nephew saw out in the distance what looked like RV lights or, just something on the property, somebody who shouldn't be there in a car or truck or RV, thinking that they had some trespassers. The three went out to confront them and kick them off their land. But as they approached, something really weird happened. The lights strangely moved away from them as they approached, in a way that an RV should not be capable of.
Terry also didn't make a big scene while approaching the RV, a tactic he would come to swear by when investigating the phenomena of this variety. Even still, despite doing his best to stay hidden, the occupants of the RV seemed aware of their presence and began to slowly drive away.
They were shaken by this, but continued to pursue the lights.
This was the sort of pursuit Terry had hoped to avoid, as he wanted to prevent the intruder from haphazardly running over his fencing. Luckily, the RV turned north and seemed trapped as it began to approach the tall, impenetrable ridge at the edge of the property.
Then, as they got close, Tom slowly realized that there was no engine noise, and all of a sudden, the lights flew high into the air, and they could visibly see what the lights were attached to, and it was a straight-up UFO. The three looked on, stupefied, as the craft flew away and out of sight at insane speed.
According to the Shermans, this thing looked like a small refrigerator that they suspected would have been too small for any human occupant. This would not be the last time they'd see it either. One evening, Gwen had to chase one away as she discovered it parked close by the house when Terry was out of town. Afterwards, she called Terry, who drove all night to get back to the ranch. Most disturbing of all, Gwen says she saw figures around a table illuminated by some light source within the RV.
And this brings us to the cursed land. Over time, the family would learn that paranormal activity in the Uinta Basin was actually pretty consistent. As we discussed, Native American legends of the area went back pretty far. According to legend, Skinwalker Ridge was an area that was incredibly dangerous. Supernatural forces haunted the area that could cause harm to living people, so the natives would keep their distance. Eventually, Skinwalker Ridge became the northern part of the family's ranch.
The researchers that study the site now have recorded a strange, unexplainable glow from above the ridge, while the ridge itself sometimes reflects laser light in unexpected ways. Like the beam landing in two places in a way that doesn't seem to be reflecting off of a rock. Like, imagine if you shined a laser at something and the laser dot landed in two places and you could, like, move it around. Go watch the Netflix show. It's weird.
Yeah, dude, totally. And how, like, we'll get into that later, huh? Like, with the laser thing, how you shine it. There's, like, an anomaly above in the sky, too, where you shine the laser and it, like, mutates in a weird way and then vanishes.
Oh, yeah. It's weird.
But yeah, that's cool. I think we talk about that later. Anyway, continuing. Because skinwalkers are not considered human, but rather evil monsters bent on dominance and causing mortal suffering, it's normal for the tribes to be totally polarized against their presence. There have been countless occasions where vigilant warriors have actually discovered a skinwalker amongst their own tribe. Once found, the tribe always hunts down and attempts to slay the entity in whatever beast form it may be in. However, these hunts are rarely successful. Skinwalkers can easily evade hunters, even while playing games with them and psychologically tormenting them, like leading the tracker to their own homes to show them they know where they live, or like the homes of loved ones. Creepy stuff. For a skinwalker, it's personal, and they're gonna make it very, very personal to mess with you personally with your own weaknesses and fears. Likewise, attempting to kill one is recklessly brave because if the hunt fails, the skinwalker will go out of their way to take vengeance. And this vengeance won't be quick. It can be dragged out for weeks or even years. Many times, the skinwalker drives the would-be hunter or hunters insane, and everyone they know and love suffers in the process as well, before eventually being murdered by the skinwalker in an extremely painful fashion.
Skinwalkers are also known to tempt their victims into self-harm, which maximizes the pain the community experiences.
Thus, the majority of the Ute tribe would give skinwalkers a wide berth and not mess with the territory that they claimed. However, a skinwalker is not invincible and can be slain. Skinwalkers' necks are very vulnerable to weapons or bullets dipped in white ash. A solid way to kill one is to learn of the skinwalker's name, the name that it used back when it was human. If the name is spoken to the monster 3 days later, while it's in human form, it will grow ill or even die. While the skinwalker is sick, it is actually an ideal opportunity for the hunter to kill it.
You know, sharks have pretty good immune systems, so if you're near a big body of water, that's a bonus for the skinwalker. Okay, I'm speculating.
I would originally think that fire would kill them, but they're not wendigos. A good trick to spot one is to simply wound it while it's in its animal form, because when it shape shifts back into its human form, guess what? It's going to have a wound in the exact same spot or the same way that you wounded it when it was in its animal form. And in their human form, they're much easier to kill, but should always be taken by surprise and never confronted openly. If they want to, one of these creatures can perfectly imitate animal creatures in any way. So, a skinwalker disguised as an animal may also move around unnaturally, stiffly, or just bizarrely, in a manner a real animal wouldn't. This is just to creep people out, though. If they're trying to be sneaky, they'll just look like a normal animal. But if they're trying to creep you out, they're gonna look weird, like a horror movie, like glitchy or something. You know, just weird. But sometimes it's quite obvious it's a skinwalker because it may actually totally appear demonic and intentionally freaky, just to cause more fear in a victim. So it's kind of like up in the air what you're going to encounter with skinwalkers. While hunting a skinwalker, one must have the utmost mental fortitude because they have insane power to mess with people's heads, which they use strategically, always attempting to gain an advantage over their victims. Skinwalkers are telepathic and know what someone will do before they do it, simply by reading their thoughts. So it's pretty hard to sneak up on them or try to trick them. And basically whatever you're thinking can be used against you. So unless you're a daily meditator and you can control your thoughts, it's probably going to get the jump on you in one way or another. They can also perfectly imitate any animal or human noise, despite what form they may be currently in. This means that they can go out into the woods and sound like your daughter or your wife or your lover, anything.
A dog just walks up to you, looks up and says, "Heidi ho, neighborino."
They'll probably just call at you from the darkness to try to get you to come out so they can mess with you more. Or it could be a baby crying, or just somebody crying out saying that they're badly injured using the voice of somebody that you care about, trying to like lure people out of their home to their doom. They can literally drive people insane by doing this, such as imitating a deceased close family member while reading the victim's mind to say the most messed up stuff possible to them. Skinwalkers are utterly sadistic, but they use these abilities for more than pleasure, like when they are confronted by multiple people seeking to slay them at once. They'll use their powers in an attempt to lure the hunters away from one another, split them up, or, attempt to cause infighting amongst them. Shapeshifting into animals may be the main calling card of a skinwalker, but they were originally practitioners of medicine and still use their magic or witchcraft to their advantage. They'll use spells and charms just as easily as they did when they were mortal. Usually, this magic is to instill fear or control over someone, but they still have all the knowledge that they possessed before their transformation into a skinwalker. They will gather a victim's hair or nail trimmings and perform dark rituals that will either aid them in their goals or help lead to a horrible fate for someone that they choose to torment. Skinwalkers also utilize a powder called corpse dust, which is made from ground up bones of infants, then given unholy power through accursed rituals. The skinwalker blows this powder into a victim's face, which makes their tongue blacken and swell. After painful convulsions and internal bleeding, the victim always dies.
I hear that unless you find an equipped and powerful shaman, the chances of death from bone dust are pretty much 100%.
Yeah, it's a hardcore curse.
They can also like fling or spit a small piece of bone under your flesh, which if you don't get it out, will kill you.
Yeah, they're pretty much horrific monsters. However, is this just a cultural interpretation of the ineffable? Whether skinwalkers are real or not, there are far more events of high strangeness that can be compared to tons of other genres of paranormal lore. Because there's a lot more going on here at Skinwalker Ranch than just skinwalkers. We got UFO encounters, as already stated, and things that go even deeper. Because there's also Bigfoot encounters, poltergeists, ghosts, all kinds of weird stuff. You think about anything in the litany of paranormal lore, it's here.
All right, so let's talk about those UFOs and the weird stuff that would happen around their presence.
The whole family witnessed strange orange lights during their duration on the land, with Terry witnessing the events probably the most. He claimed to have seen it dozens of times and would go out at night and look at the lights through the scope of his hunting rifle. The shape of the orange lights would vary. Sometimes they were perfectly round, and other times they were ovoid, elongated, or simply non-symmetrical. Depending on the distance one viewed, the lights would determine how clearly they could be seen, with the ranch being the spot where they basically appear the most focused. The further away you got, like out towards the road, it just became more and more translucent. One night, Terry went out to look at the orange lights when he noticed the most bizarre thing that he'd seen in a while. While observing them, there was a bright blue light in the middle of the large orange light. When he looked at it through his hunting rifle scope, what Terry saw astonished him. The thing in the middle was not the color blue emanating from within the orange light. It was a clear blue sky, as if it was daytime, but it had long since been night, so there being a clear blue sky inside the light made no sense to him.
What? This is totally mind-blowing to me.
What was it, like a portal?
Ah.
Yes! Now, it's described as being a little bigger than a harvest moon. As Tim mentioned, this orange light would become dimmer and harder to see the more the observer deviated from the homestead on the ranch. As Tim mentioned, if you went to the road, it just looked like an orange little cloud. Like, no big deal. Just ambient light, whatever. But to Terry, it appeared to be a big, fat tunnel pointed directly at his home.
Something terrible is about to enter our world, and this building is obviously the door.
Then he witnessed a huge triangular craft flying out of the blue sky within the orange light out into the night directly toward him. Terry claims that whatever was going on, he in no way understood. But it seemed like some sort of portal where flying objects were coming out of nowhere. It was daytime, but in our world, it was night, and it was coming through this orange light. Despite all this weird stuff going on all the time at the Sherman Ranch, nothing bad actually ever happened to Terry or his family so far. Like, nobody was injured. So even though it was pretty disturbing, he could not pack up and force his family to abandon their dream. No physical harm had occurred to any of them. The unexplainable anomalies, or whatever was controlling them, seemed to be fine in just letting the family be. And Terry lied to himself that they could endure it. And that is, until one of his cattle came under attack.
No! No! not the beef cows. They're delicious.
Yeah, there's some seriously twisted cow mutilations that go on at the ranch.
Oh, how twisted. Tell me about the twisted cow mutilations, Tim.
Well, during the first one, it happened during a winter storm. Terry noticed one of his cows was missing, and he dutifully went looking for it, quickly finding some tracks. Just like the wolf encounter that had happened when the family first showed up at the ranch, the prints just vanished out of nowhere. But this was just the first cow to go missing, because 5 would vanish over the winter, and to a cattle ranch farmer, that's kind of a big deal. More and more, the high strangeness revolved around the cows, and it got pretty disturbing. They'd find the cows eviscerated, but there would be many of their cows found in unique, disturbing ways. Here starts the straight-up cow mutilation from the UFO phenomenon. Cows were sliced and diced up with surgical precision. Some parts of the cow were removed as if by a professional surgeon, and there was never any blood whatsoever. This went on for months.
Sounds like picky eaters to me.
Sounds like some weird-ass gray aliens being dicks. In Terry's case, he began to notice specific anomalies associated with the occurrences of cow mutilations. We talked about the orange lights earlier, but Terry saw yellow lights when cow stuff was going down. The occurrences usually happened during bad weather, but one or more yellow lights being seen at the ranch kind of signified that this was going to go down the next day. The family would discover a cow sliced up as if being dissected by professionals in a lab.
The bad weather aspect is also something we see quite a bit in missing 411 cases. Like if a human is going to go missing and they find them, inexplicably days later or whatever, or they never find them at all, there's oftentimes an extreme weather event that occurs shortly after the disappearance.
Another anomaly was that when the corpses of the cows were collected, they did not decay at a normal rate. They lasted far longer than they should have, as if they were being preserved somehow. Maybe like how if they were being preserved as if they were in a cooler, but they weren't in a cooler. They were just been left out on the ground. They weren't being preserved at all. So whatever mutilated the cow also somehow slowed entropy in some unexplainable way.
So this is where McDonald's gets their beef.
I'm loving it. So this is something modern researchers were able to demonstrate for this new Netflix show, Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch. They had one cow acting very bizarre, upset, alarmed even, which fits the bill. It peels off from the rest of the herd and it just drops dead in this specific spot. Now, they had a necropsy done on this cow, and it said that it died of stress-induced pneumonia. But this didn't really explain the fact that a whole year later, nothing had touched that corpse. It was just kind of desiccated. No predators, no insects of any kind. And from what I understand, if a cow dies of pneumonia, drops over dead, in 2 days, that thing's gonna be totally full of maggots.
There's never a situation where that doesn't happen.
And there's predators too. So they don't know why this happens. And even the Netflix documentary could show you this phenomena, and it's weird. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no sense at all. During one particular cow mutilation event, Terry discovered a weird-looking brown substance next to the cow. For some reason, he touched it. I wouldn't have touched it. And he claims it felt like a gel-like substance. Intrigued, Terry wanted to save the substance for study, but by the time he found something to put it in, the stuff had evaporated or been removed from the scene. Terry said the substance was not poop or gore or anything like that, but it was something that he'd never seen before.
Where do I put this? Oh, in my butt!
Why would you touch it, right?
I don't know why you would touch
I just expected him to just stick it in his mouth as well,
it.
Seriously, it's just as dumb.
Just rub it on his gums.
Yeah, like he's doing coke or something. That's some good brown stuff. Ugh. But the continued cow mutilations really sucked for the family because, like I said, just a single cow getting killed is kind of a big deal. That's thousands of dollars, dude. People don't know this, but every single cow is worth thousands of dollars. When you see all those cows on that hill, that's a lot of money. These cow mutilations were threatening to render the family destitute.
You know how we mentioned prior to Skinwalker Ranch, the Shermans averaged a loss of less than 1%? Now they were in excess of 20.
Damn.
Yeah, so it's not like they're just like, get off my farm, you damn glowing lights. It's like, imagine if you had a garage full of cars and you wake up one day and like 2 of them have been smashed to pieces. You'd be like, excuse me, that's my fucking car. It's the same thing with a cow. They're worth thousands of dollars. They're your livelihood too. So, and the profit margins are not huge, even for Black Angus cattle. So they're
It's very competitive
money.
too. Yeah.
Yes, it's competitive.
Yeah.
What I can't get out of my head is that one episode we did about subterranean bases in Tulsa, New Mexico, and the security guard who supposedly leaked what happens there, and they've got reptilians and greys working with the government in these deep underground bases. And according to that lore, they're stealing the cows' glands so they can make food for the reptilians and the greys. It just so happens that the Shermans have the good cows with the good ass glands that make Claxor smile. So
Top tier.
Get me another one of the Sherman butt glands. The pudding is delicious.
Oh my God, that's beautiful. So, one of the main things that is really interesting about Skinwalker Ranch is the sheer diversity of high strangeness. As already mentioned, the ranch had a ton of anomalies ranging from UFO phenomenon to ghosts to Sasquatch. But there's even more to it than just, it's just trying to sum it up so briefly doesn't really do it justice. Strange sounds that seem to be coming from underground could normally be heard on the ranch. There were many holes randomly across the property with a diameter of several feet that these noises could be traced back to. They would appear in areas where the anomalous lights were seen the night prior, meaning there were a lot of these little buggers showing up. Within these areas, the soil would just vanish. So, for unknown reasons, something stole hundreds of pounds of dirt from his property.
Come back here, that's my dirt! It was expensive!
Yeah, and if you look at the pictures, it's really weird because these are just like tunnels of dirt, like straight, like a pipe was shoved down it and then removed.
That's something they addressed during the modern research being done on the property. They find what looks like sinkholes, and they've tried dumping as much water as they can get from the irrigation passage down there, and it won't fill up, and they don't see where it's draining out. I mean, it could be a giant sinkhole. Like, they don't know.
No, you've seen the aerial sensors, right? How it like shows under the ground. There's just like vast chasms and electromagnetic anomalies in water too, like vast underground lakes.
It's real
Not
weird.
Lakes, rivers. Yeah.
And this is something we hear about with Bigfoot sightings is this like dull mechanical whirring noise that comes from underneath the earth. Apparently, it's quite common, like in terms of cryptid sightings, etc.
And there would also be random like circular impressions on the grass all throughout the property with like they were not made by the lights, and it's just all really super weird and super interesting. Terry would also hear things speaking above him that he could not see, and worst of all, in an unknown language. Based on how well he could hear them, they couldn't logically be very far away either. But when he was looking for them, there was nothing around.
Hey, Terry.
Something.
Terry, have you cleaned your foreskin?
That's what they're whispering to him. It's in a different alien language, though.
Wow.
Some think it's the aliens talking in their invisible UFO or something, but trying to make sense of it doesn't make any sense at all.
Not unless you've read Flatlanders, then it kind of makes sense.
Oh, that's totally different. Yeah, if we're doing that kind of like dimension stuff, totally. But I mean, come on.
They're whispering to Terry to clean his foreskin from the direction that he's not capable of turning towards.
Yeah, it's the higher dimension pushing down, so you can't comprehend it.
They can see your smegma through your clothing.
The glowing lights mentioned already varied, and different anomalies happened based on the colors that they saw. They were blue, yellow, orange, and red. Terry says that sometimes these lights seem to be observing him and even investigate his activities and kind of just like see what he was up to. Most of the time, the lights were very far away, but there were a few close encounters with these mysterious lights that the family documented.
One warm evening in spring, the Shermans were watching their cows and horses graze when suddenly, Terry got the feeling that something wasn't right. The cattle were restless, and that's when he saw it. Some kind of blue light whizzing around the tree line above his horses. Gwen saw it too. It wove its way through the trees, its blue glow clearly visible as it descended and made its way towards the head of the cattle, the horses waving it away like so many flies. Then suddenly, the blue orb broke away from the animals at startling speed and began making its way towards the Shermans. It stopped abruptly mid-air, about 15 feet above the ground, and hovered silently about 20 feet from them. This would be the clearest they would ever see these orbs. In particular, these blue orbs were described as looking a bit like flying glass fish bowls with hot, almost boiling sort of blue plasma percolating inside and emitting a crackling noise like static electricity as they maneuvered.
When Terry and his wife viewed them up close, they felt an unnatural anxiety. I mean, they already knew the blue lights were potentially dangerous, and they said this was beyond all that. They felt it was projected into them by the blue light, like an artificial emotion.
Terry said he'd been cornered by dangerous animals in the woods and had not felt that much fear. After the orb left, he realized the intensity of the emotion he felt was unwarranted. Gwen was shaking and she'd been hyperventilating. Apparently, shining a flashlight at it had been the thing that made it zip away. Oh no, not the flashlight! Ah!
My one weakness. On another night, a blue light got close to the ground, and Terry's dogs attacked it. The light responded by flying around the dogs, moving so that it would barely be out of reach, kind of like it was messing with them, taunting them. And then all of a sudden, the blue light flew off into the woods at a slow pace. The dogs gave chase, and after a moment, the dogs began crying out in horror and distress. Then, just as quickly, there was only silence. Terry called and called, but the animals would not return. Disheartened, Terry went inside for the evening. The next day, when Terry looked for his dogs, he found their corpses in brown, burned circles of grass, and the center of their bodies were a gooey mess of gore.
I hate this.
Yes, they killed his dogs, dude.
They've crossed the line.
That is beyond the line.
You don't with the best friend.
I'd be like, this means war. Like a Acme cartoon, Looney Tunes. This was when got serious for Terry. Because the cows sucked, yeah, but the dogs were family. The family concluded 3 things about these blue lights. When they were around, they'd mess with the electricity in the house. They were smaller than the other lights, and the blue lights were potentially very dangerous.
But if you'd like to hear more about Skinwalker Ranch, what happens when the Sherman family went public, the rich billionaire Robert Bigelow, who purchased the property, the scientific findings of the NIDS team who investigated the area.
There's a lot more juicy stuff, man. Oh yeah. The magnetic anomalies beneath the surface as well. And also the Indian legends and how like some researchers think that Mesoamericans might have actually come from Utah. Not all of them, don't get me wrong. Just one particular group. And there's a whole giant lore behind it as well.
We even talk a little bit about giants. But if you'd like to hear that part of the story, please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit for your monthly donation of just $5 will not only get you access to the extended version of this episode, but all of our extended episodes going back just about 5 years now. I'll even send you a 5x5 high quality vinyl sticker for our Big Bunny Baphomet cover art, and you'll get the secret keys to our Discord server.
And make sure to go to crypticchronicles.com or go subscribe to Cryptic Chronicles on literally any podcast host.
Yes, if you want more of this great content, crypticchronicles.com.
And for every $10 subscription to The Whole Rabbit, you get the Mari Campari swimsuit calendar of your dog.
No?
Yeah, your dog calendar. Remember? You agreed.
No, I don't have that one.
Yeah, we got to get the swimsuits first.
Bruh.
Anyway, we will have it as soon as possible, I promise.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you, everybody. Eat carrots and shoot lasers.
Pew, pew, pew.
Tim.